Standing on the left of this image is Nicholas Holdorf, a Rutgers University student majoring in environmental planning. To the right is myself, and I'm a graduate from New Jersey City University with a degree in the biological sciences. We are both citizen scientists from Future City Inc., and together we welcome you to this PowerPoint presentation, Pollution at the Elizabeth Waterfront. At the Elizabeth Waterfront, you can find garbage scattered everywhere. Garbage cans usually overfilled, and no recycling bins can be found at the site. On a typical day, what inhabitants would normally see is a bunch of broken bottles derived from alcoholic beverages. Most people are unaware that there are cameras in the area, and because the laws are not heavily enforced, people continue to pollute the Elizabeth waterfront. Elizabeth inhabitants continue to disregard the signage at the waterfront. Signs indicate that fish are loaded with harmful chemicals, and for one's own safety, it's best to just catch and release. People fish for self or maybe selling it to the public. Many of our allies believe this may be due to the low economic status of many people residing in Elizabeth. As citizen scientists, our job is to address the issue and make people more aware of what's going on in their surrounding environment, hoping that they might change a bad habit into a good one. Fortunately, our team was able to do this at the BioBlitz event, Bill's event, and over at the Elizabeth High School. The Elizabeth waterfront is loaded with dioxins, phosphate, PCBs, and mercury. Dioxins derive from combustion reactions. They accumulate in the fat of fish and are usually found in large amounts in soil and sediment. Phosphate is a limiting resource and is a factor that controls the population's growth and size. It's necessary for plant growth. PCBs, on the other hand, are banned man-made chemicals, normally found in the fat of fish. Studies have shown pregnant women have abnormal children. Mercury is a naturally occurring metal. Bacteria converts it to methylmercury, which is extremely lethal to the nervous system. Pollution coming from airplanes, trucks, and vessels contribute immensely to the contamination of water at the waterfront. First and foremost, airplanes are powered by petroleum, AV gas. They constantly travel over the Elizabeth waterfront every 3 to 5 minutes. AV gas is composed of volatile hydrocarbons, oxygenates, tetraethyl lead, which enhances combustion stability, and mixture of other chemicals. One airplane takeoff is equivalent to 3,224,000 cigarettes. According to Google Maps, Newark International Airport is about 3.5 miles from the town of Elizabeth and 4 or 5 miles away from the Elizabeth waterfront. AV gas contains other hazardous components, most of which contain risk phases. For example, substances that contain R12 are extremely flammable. Chemicals with R45 are capable of causing cancer. But two that I would like to look closely at is R52 and R53, which are substances that are harmful to aquatic organisms. These are chemicals that fall under R52 and R53 that may be incorporated into AV gas. Acetaminophen is used to alleviate pain such as moderate headaches and muscle aches. Xylometazoline is a drug which is used as a nasal decongestant. Normally it comes in drops and is applied directly to the nose. Carbon tetrachloride is used in petroleum refining and pharmaceutical manufacturing as an industrial solvent in the processing of fats, oils, and rubbers. Scientists are debating whether this chemical is a carcinogen or not. There are many types of AV gas. AV gas 80/87 and AV gas 100LL both disseminate low amounts of lead. We currently use 100LL and discontinue the use of AV gas 90/96 and 115/145 due to the harmful chemicals released into the environment. Lead can inhibit physical and mental development. It can also cause nervous system problems, especially in young children. Even though the AV gas 100LL carries little amounts of lead, it's still a problem because bioaccumulation occurs and the lead isn't being removed from the aquatic habitat. Air contamination eventually leads to water contamination, resulting in fish contamination. Most of the toxic chemicals in the water accumulate within the fish. When big fish eat small fish, big fish just accumulated more toxic substances within its internal system. If big fish dies in the river, then those toxic chemicals will be released and may be consumed by other fish. In other words, what gets in usually doesn't get out. Most trucks are powered by diesel fuel. A truck parking area resides next to the waterfront. Recent findings suggest that diesel fuel is a carcinogen, making it dangerous to humans and maybe even aquatic organisms. Carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, nitric oxide, sulfur dioxide are all chemicals associated with diesel exhaust. Carbon dioxide. More carbon dioxide enters waterways at night because plants only use photosynthesis when light is present. More carbon dioxide in water equals less oxygen intake for aquatic organisms. Carbon dioxide combines with water to form carbonic acid, which is a relatively weak acid. If the pH at the waterfront is relatively high, carbonic acid serves as neutralizer. If pH is low, fish that cannot adapt to environmental condition will die. Carbon monoxide is known as the silent killer. It removes oxygen off of hemoglobin, making it difficult to breathe. Carbon monoxide elevates the concentrations of methane, a greenhouse gas, and ozone in the atmosphere. It may even produce heart disease and damage to the nervous system. Moreover, nitrogen dioxide and nitric oxide both are toxic gases and highly reactive oxidants. Both are extremely corrosive. Further, sulfur dioxide is also a highly reactive gas. It's detrimental to the respiratory system and reacts with water to form sulfurous acid. It's a major air pollutant and has significant impacts upon human health. Sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere can influence the habitat suitability for plant communities as well as animal life. Moving on to vessel pollution. Many large cargo vessels travel through the Elizabeth waterfront. They are powered by bunker fuel, which is technically any type of fuel oil used aboard ships. Bunker fuel contaminants include sodium, potassium, calcium, sulfate, vanadium, lead, and nickel. Vanadium and nickel are present as chemical molecules known as porphyrins. They help form many important substances in the body, for example, hemoglobin. Vanadium and lead are the most dangerous. Vanadium is produced naturally through the combustion of fossil fuels, similar to dioxins. It inhibits enzyme systems, making large amounts lethal to aquatic organisms. It's also detrimental to the human respiratory system. Large oil spills coming from large vessels can result in thousands of aquatic organisms dead. Airway damage, suppression of immune system, loss of insulation, troubled breeding, damage to fish eggs and fish because they swim to the source believing it's dissolved food, damage to aquatic habitat, and obviously, high levels of stress. All these chemicals coming from airplanes, trucks, and vessels are dangerous to the environment. In the air, most of these chemicals such as sulfur dioxide are carried by the wind and dissolved in rainwater to form acid rain. Acid rain kills plant life and pollutes rivers and streams. When the storm drains are blocked, acid rain can drag all the harmful substances from the ground directly into the river, contaminating the fish even more. Some of these substances are contributing to the global climate change. That's why it's important to go green. Investing in hybrid cars would be a great way to start. In fact, hybrid cars pollute the air 75% less than an average car. New York has taken a stand and is using clean air technology buses. Perhaps it's time to follow their footsteps. Members of the EPA, HEP, and the U.S. Coast Guard are our allies and help develop projects and programs to deal with these problems not only at the Elizabeth waterfront, but other areas as well. Future, Future City citizen scientists and myself had a chance to speak with Coast Guard members. They are first responders that react to any oil spill reported or any emergency such as the miracle on the Hudson. The picture on the left is a map indicating wildlife-sensitive regions, which allows Coast Guard members to initiate a proper response for the area affected. The Elizabeth waterfront is currently undergoing a dredging project. The goal is to deepen the canal roughly 50 feet to provide access for bigger vessels. The high tides make it difficult for large vessels to pass under bridges. However, the picture at the bottom left shows when the waterfront is at a low tide, making it easier for large vessels to pass under bridges. Like many other projects, the dredging project has pros and cons. Pros: provides more jobs, allows bigger vessels to pass under bridges. Sediment dredged from the bay can be used to rebuild wetlands. Cons: chemicals residing in the bottom of the river rises. Disturbs wildlife habitat. It's extremely costly. Bigger vessels can travel on a constant basis, which means more fuel consumption, affecting the aquatic organisms. Oysters are amazing creatures. Some of our allies believed it was a good idea to consider using some oysters to filter our water, but the plan failed because people continued to consume them and other reasons as well. So how exactly do oysters filter water? So, vast amount of water passes through their gills. Plankton, algae, and other particle gets stuck to the mucus of the gills. It's later transported to the esophagus and the stomach for digestion. When you see the smoke rings, that's a good indication that the oyster is filtering water. Oysters also have pros and cons. Pros: it can filter 5 liters of water an hour. Keeps a number of primary producers from taking over. An example of a primary producer would be algae. And it's extremely cheap. Cons: high mercury accumulation. HEP Associates mentioned the project failed because people consumed these organisms. Thus far, I spoke about how the New Jersey side of the waterfront is dealing with this problem. Now I just want to touch on how New York is dealing with the problem. Their fish advisories list the severity of eating each fish. They give advice on eating raw or partially cooked fish because they may contain viruses and bacteria. New York routinely allows shell fishing. The NYSDEC tests for bacteria. If present, then they may close the area. New York is primarily concerned with women younger than 50 because the level of mercury in the fish may cause problems if and when they decide to get pregnant. To conclude, inhabitants continue to disregard the fish advisories, so we need your suggestions on ways of overcoming the problem at the waterfront and improving this marine environment. Special thanks to everyone that cares about environmental degradation and seeks to do something about it. Don't forget to make Earth Day every day. Thank you very much for listening, and remember, Future City cares.